What's up, guys? It's Blue, and I have our deck profile for our Supreme King deck. So, first off, he was requested so many times. He was a character that we definitely wanted to make. We were just kind of figuring out when we had a lot of decks from Season 1, 2, but we knew that at whatever point we decided to start working on Season 3 more, we will include him. So he's been requested so much. It's a character we've, really been wanting to make, and we're just kind of waiting on. So, we really have the deck for him, and we're happy with it. It's an interesting deck, and, we kind of kept it hidden too because it was a version of Jaden, but it wasn't quite Jaden, so we didn't announce it as another Jaden deck because, it's not exactly Jaden. But this deck is built a little differently than we approached Jesse's deck when he was possessed by Ubel. So whereas that deck has a 4-card side deck, due to the lack of cards for his deck, including all the, Advanced Crystal Beast, the Supreme King deck really takes off a lot of what we saw played. So, the deck has, a lot of duplicates and triplicates. We're not thrilled. We didn't want to take a unique Jaden deck and then just start seeding in the evil heroes, because going with that duel, it's really hard to judge overall what may have actually been in there, because we obviously see he has a lot of new monsters, the evil heroes, but he also has a lot of old monsters, like his original E-heroes. But that is because many of the E-heroes have a second fusion in the form of an evil hero. So, to go through, it's 2 of every E-hero that is in the deck. So it's 2 Avian, Burstinatrix, Clayman, Neos, and Sparkman for the normal monsters. So it's very bare bones. It is just those 5 normal monster E-heroes, 2 each. It really helps the consistency, though. This deck has one goal. It makes fusions, and it makes a lot of them, and they're pretty good. So, unlike Jaden's other decks that we have, where it's one of so many cards, and the fusions get kind of mixed around because you have, one piece of maybe 3 different monsters, but they don't make their own monster. This deck really ups the consistency for making his fusions with 2 of each of the E-heroes, 2 Wild Hearts, and that completely cuts off the E-heroes, but now we're obviously in the effect monsters. So, that's all the cards we've seen so far from Jaden. 6 E-heroes, including the 4 original ones. Now we're getting to the evil heroes. So it's 3 evil hero Infernal Gainer. Again, we want to really push the new evil hero theme, so all the evil heroes are at 3. So that as much as we want to see the original elemental heroes, we definitely want to see these evil heroes come around, especially because they do a bit more than just fuse. 3 evil hero Infernal Prodigy, and he gives this deck a bit of a draw effect, which is great because it's not hard to tribute him for Malicious Edge with Malicious Edge's own effect. So his last, again, not a huge amount of monsters in this deck, only 3 evil hero monsters. The last one being Malicious Edge, which is definitely a heavy hitter, because even though it's 2 tributes, if your opponent has a monster, he makes himself 1 tribute. And if you have no monsters, you can special summon Infernal Prodigy. Now you have 1 tribute for Malicious, who has Piercing, and Prodigy will let you draw a card from that. So the evil heroes themselves do pack a punch even before you start making fusions. Now the spell cards are where it gets kind of interesting, because there are several cards in here that are exactly the same of what we've had in Jaden's E-hero deck, but dark versions. So first is 2 copies of Dark Calling, which is the evil hero version of Miracle Fusion. Next is Dark Fusion. It is the essential card for evil heroes. They need to be fused with Dark Fusion. Also, Dark Calling does count as Dark Fusion. But Dark Fusion is a key card. It's polymerization for evil heroes, but it also has a protection effect in it at the end. So, again, it can be the same old hero monsters or the new evil hero monsters, but they have a specific card that makes them fuse. So next, we have Emergency Call. Now, the one thing I do want to state, because this is the one that came up first, is that we only saw O Oversoul played in that duel. He did not play HER or Hero Flash, but we felt that rather than build too many duplicates of some cards into the deck, we felt it, we used our judgment and we felt it plausible that, if he has O, we're going to give him HER and O. So even though they were not seeing that duel, we're going to give him the credit that he had them, as their effects all still apply to the deck. But other than that, we did not want to assume anything of what may or may not have been in his deck, because although there's monsters we could assume, there's a lot of stuff to pick one, so we took the O and then gave him just the rest of that set. So, 1 Emergency Call, 2 Fake Hero, which is, again, so much more potent in this deck because of how much easier it is to make fusions, that more so than some of Jaden's other decks, you're more likely to have a combination of monsters that will lead you to fusion. So Fake Hero definitely helps get those out a little bit sooner. And then, as I said, 1 H, 1 O, and 1 R. So he gets the full HERO. We didn't give him Hero Flash. We didn't think that was necessary. We just want to tweak it a little bit so he has, again, HERO. And we're leaving it at that. We're not too comfortable changing much else based on speculation. This is kind of the one case where we felt his deck just didn't feel right with more copies of cards that go Oversoul. So, next up is interesting. It's Super Poly, and yes, it does have one of our glorious errata stickers on it. So, basically, Super Poly, the TCG, is not different than the anime version, but Jaden used Super Poly to make the Evil Hero fusions. And whereas, conventional wisdom might say to errata the Evil Hero fusions to be made with only Dark Fusion or Super Poly, we just made a decision that it would be shorter and easier to just change Super Poly to also be able to make Evil Hero Fusion. So, and again, you will see this in duels, and we'll mention this in duels, but Super Poly is actually pretty much the same from the anime, but we made a decision that would help it do what it did in the anime, even though the problem did not fall on the Super Polymerization card. So, if that makes sense, if not, basically, the deck is still going to play the way it did in the anime, and because it's a Dark Fusion, and even if this card ends up in a Jaden deck later on, it can still have the errata, but we won't stock his deck with Evil Heroes. This will be the only deck to have Evil Heroes. So the fact that he could have a Season 3 or Season 4 deck with Super Polymerization, it won't make a difference, the fact that it's errata. It really just pertains to this deck. So no matter who uses it, it only applies in this deck. And last up is Vicious Claw. So, again, a couple cards were on the 3 end. New cards that we want to see a bit more of so we can see more of the Evil Hero part of his deck play out. We've seen E-Heroes so many times. We want to see the Evil Hero fusions, but we want to see the rest of the deck as well. And the last card, the only trap card, is Evil Blast. Again, unfortunately, there were a couple cards that Jaden had played, or Supreme King had played, that were not printed. But with everything that we had printed, I think that we have a pretty good deck for it. It makes fusion consistently. It still feels a bit like Jaden, but not so much that it really feels like another Jaden deck, because it's not. It's really supposed to be the tainted Jaden, Supreme King possessed, that whole thing. And again, Jesse played several cards while he was, possessed by Yubel. It's Crystal Beast deck. I'm not talking about his Sacred Beast deck, of course. I mean his own deck that was twisted to a darker version. So we have it as a side deck because there was just a handful of cards. But again, Jaden's deck, we want to give him a second deck. We didn't want to side deck him. We also don't have a Season 3 Jaden yet. It will come at some point. Alright, and last but not least, I'm going to cover his fusion deck. His fusion deck was based off of combinations of the elemental heroes and the evil heroes. So the monsters were really either or. He could use either the evil heroes or the e-heroes to make some fusions. The first up is Evil Hero Dark Gaia, and the thing is, it requires a rock monster, and he has none in his deck, and that's a big reason why the Super Poly errata was more relevant, was because even though he could use Super Poly to make evil heroes, it was necessary for this one because it uses a rock type monster he doesn't have. So now with the Super Poly errata, it works. We could have just changed this one card, but again, we felt changing Super Poly just covered more of a basis, and then rather than changing all of the individual fusions. But that was like one of the big things. So this card cannot be made within this deck because this deck does not contain any rock type monsters. Next is Infernal Sniper. Again, so many of the evil heroes, actually with the exception of Dark Gaia and Malicious Fiend, they are just e-heroes in a different combination. But again, we're not going to really see them outside of this deck. So even though other Jaden decks could make them, he didn't play them there. So Evil Hero Infernal Sniper is Clayman Burstinatrix. Evil Hero Inferno Wing is Avian Burstinatrix, and is now the third fusion of those two monsters. You have the original Flame Wing Man, you have Phoenix Enforcer, now you have Evil Hero Inferno Wing. So actually those two make quite a couple different options. Lightning Golem, totally just like Thunder Giant again. A lot of these are really just like darker versions of the elemental hero fusions, with very minimal changes. Next up is Evil Hero Malicious Fiend, a fusion of Evil Hero Malicious Edge and a level 6 Fiend type monster. So it could be 2 Malicious Edge, pretty strong, and again, this is one of the ones that uses, this is one of the 2 that uses the actual evil heroes as a fusion. The other ones are just evil hero in their own right, aside from what makes them up. And again, the last one then being Evil Hero Wild Cyclone, which is Wild Heart, and once again, Avian. So that rounds out his fusions. So overall, this is a really fun deck. It's a nice take on a Jaden deck. Again, being the base, obviously, for the Supreme King, but then throwing in the evil heroes. So we would have liked to have seen more cards played. There's a few more cards that could have been printed, but overall, with what we have, as far as cards we have printed in the TCG from whatever we had in the anime, it's a really nice deck. It's a pretty fun deck because it can more consistently make fusions than Jaden's other decks, you know, mostly because of the duplicates we used to build a 40 card deck. Again, we didn't want to speculate too much, like siding out a Season 3 Jaden deck, because we don't have that yet. It will come at some point, but we didn't want to work on that too much right now, because we do have 2 Jaden decks, and one of which does have a lot of Neos monsters. So, but this is the Supreme King deck. You guys have been asking for it for a while, and we always wanted to do it, but now we're at the part where we said, yes, now's where to do it. So stay tuned for more content with the Supreme King, with other characters from GX, and with other characters from Beyond. So, see you guys.